Hello everyone, let's find out about Venus, the planet of love and romance itself, the planet about marriage in the D9 Navamsa chart, the divisional chart which shows us our destiny but also our relationships. Now Venus in the D9 is an extremely important significator to understand deeply, so we have a lot to discuss. If you're new to my channel, of course, don't forget to sub below, and if the video is helpful for you, give it a thumbs up and share it around. Let's go. First of all, what is the D9 chart? The most important Varga chart to see. It is the 9th division of every sign coming from your birth chart. This D9 shows you your fortune, your destiny in this lifetime. Why is it happening? Because the 9th house in any chart is the house of fortune or Bhagya. So the D9 is our portion of fortune for this life. And of course, that is all fortune in all departments of life, don't forget. And especially, of course, marriage. It is the chart of relationship, spouse, and marriage. If you don't have a D9 Navamsa, by the way, most Vedic software bring it up for you. Definitely the link below, Devaguru, bottom of my description box, will actually bring you that up automatically. You do not have to sub to get the chart. And something else very important, the D9, the Navamsa, should be rectified to be accurate for your predictions. Now, even if you have an accurate birth time, hospital record, maybe something like that, Navamsa ascendant changes certainly every 15 minutes, but for your own chart, for your own time of birth, you could find in a minute or two that the ascendant could change. Just a minute's difference or so, and it could all change. All the houses change, or the meaning of that D9 Navamsa will completely be different. So it's very important to rectify D9. To help you do this, on my previous video, as I say, it's been up on my channel for some time, D9 Navamsa chart video. On there, I have given you a very good technique looking at the Navamsa trines. Check that video and definitely you should apply that technique. In addition to that, of course, this series itself, looking at the house placements of the planets D9, will hopefully help you with rectification as well. Now, here's a very important point. The planets by sign in the D9, are they different to the planets by sign D1? No, they are not. The sign is a rasi. Rasi means a heap of karma. Therefore, let's say Venus placed in Taurus. Venus in Taurus will have the same meaning because Taurus is the same in every Varga. So Venus in Taurus, D1, D9, D3, D60, anywhere at all, any Varga will have the same basic meaning, the same karmic implication. It isn't the sign that's going to make things shift, it's the house. That's why ascendant is important. So planets by sign and their karmic significance. There's a whole playlist on my channel, everyone. Planetary karmas by sign. Please check them out and check the meaning of your D9 planets in their signs in that playlist. I will put the list below for you. And when you see those meanings, you can integrate them naturally with the house placements in the D9 that I'm going to go through for you in this series. But when we consider the houses in the D9, this is different. The houses do not have the same meaning, D9, as they do birth chart. There are some definite overlays. Definitely similarities will always be there, but there are specific differences. Check the video on my channel, link below, houses D9. Check out that carefully, because if you don't listen to that, much of what I'm going to speak about in this whole series is not going to make so much sense. So check out the meaning of the D9 houses, and then the planets in the houses hopefully will become much clearer to you. So how do you understand Venus Sukra in the Navamsa D9 chart? This might seem so straightforward, everybody. Venus is love and romance. Venus in the D9 is how happy we are in our relationships, right? No, definitely not. Venus does not represent happiness like that. You see, Venus Sukra is the planet of desire. He's rajastic, desire, what you desire. Specifically here, he definitely represents sexual desire, sensuality, sexual intercourse, coupling, mating. That's what Venus is all about. So you need to get it very clear that Venus is the planet of sex and not Mars. Don't think of Mongala like that. We'll discuss Mars next video. So don't get confused. Venus is about sexual desire primarily, and sexual desire is a big part about falling in love. So Venus is working on two levels. One, passion, desire, sex, mating, coupling, survival of the species, if you like. He is about that. That is his job description. So definitely D9, he shows that. Second level though, the icing on the cake. Love, romance, hearts and flowers, deep felt connection. Venus represents that as well. And so because of this, Venus is the marriage significator, the significator of marriage, like a sort of Dharmakataka in the D9. But he is not Dharmakataka, don't get confused. He simply represents deep commitment, marriage, long-term relationships, if you like, these days. That is what he signifies. In male and female charts, we can see in the D9 Navamsa. But first things first, because Venus not only shows marriage, but who attracts you. What sort of person are you attracted to? How do you see it? You see it by the sign of Venus in the D9, not the house, the sign, Rasi, that Venus occupies in the D9 Navamsa. And the sign tells us about the sort of person that turns us on, if you like, makes us sexually aroused even. Yes, we can see it. Let's say Venus is in Sagittarius. People from different cultures are those that basically you are attracted to sexually and romantically. Venus in Gemini D9, you like clever people, intellectual people, witty people, funny people, actually humorous people, but you're a bit flirty yourself and you may be attracted to a similar type of people. Venus in Scorpio, you like secretive people, strong-minded people, but there's a depth there. There's a little bit of antagonism coming in, a little bit of fear and a control aspect. So controlling people, or you are controlling in the relationship, that's a very heavy Venus, actually. Venus in Scorpio D9. So check the sign of Venus. How do you find out more? Check the video on my channel, Venus Karmas in all signs. The link is below. Check it out for the Venus sign in your D9. Who attracts you? Who is your type? That's what you will find out. And to some extent, that sign will explain what you experience in intimate personal relationships. But more than that, the house position of Venus gives us those karmic life experiences, and definitely the aspects to Venus have to be seen for your total experience in intimate relationships. A question always comes up: what's the difference between the birth chart Venus D1 and the Navamsa Venus D9? Navamsa Venus is your deep, intimate experience of relationship. It has the final say. Whatever D1 Venus shows, that's a generalized pattern. But the Venus D9 is the absolute point which you need to understand. This is your inner experience of relationships. It's so important. Now, here's an important thing, everyone. We all want to know about this, right? When do we meet this significant person, potential marriage partner, significant relationship? When do these deep connections happen? Or when do they come into our experience? That's the thing. When do they actually manifest? Now, there are other ways, of course, but I like this technique. It's been working for me for a long time. What is it? The sign of Venus in the D9 and the opposite sign as well. 7th from Venus and the sign where Venus is. House position, that's not the point. Just the sign in the D9 chart and the sign opposite to that. They're the main things I want you to check. So, the Lord of the sign where is Venus occupying D9? Say Venus is Aries. So, Mars is the Lord of Venus sign D9. Mars Dasha or Mars Bhukti or Antara Dasha, subperiod, can manifest love connection, or you can meet them for the first time. But that's not enough. It's the opposite sign, Venus's 7th sign away. So once again, say you've got Venus Aries, then 7 away is Libra sign. Lord is Venus now. So Venus Bhukti, Venus Dasha can as well manifest love connection. Sometimes it's the actual meeting where you actually don't connect, but you meet them. It isn't just that. If there are conjunctions to Venus, then that planet's Mahadasha Bhukti can manifest love relationship, okay? And significant connection, okay? And any aspect to Venus, actually. So any planet aspecting Venus, the Lord of Venus, Lord of the opposite sign, those are the time periods when Venus will be activated in your D9. And that's what the whole thing is about. That's the secret. Venus has to be activated. Hope that was helpful. We're going to see in the example charts, definitely. Now, Venus is also about financial gain, but there's a very subtle difference to understand about Sukra here. Jupiter is wealth coming to you, definitely, in every Varga chart, including D9. We'll see it shortly on the series. And Mercury is money. How do you use money? Does it work for you? Last video, business, all of that we discussed in the series. But Venus is enjoyment of money. Aha, that's a different thing. So Venus's house placement D9, everyone, shows where can you get gain from, potential financial gain from that area, like 8th house D9 from inheritance, etc. So when you have Venus ill placed, particularly to Stana, 6, 8, 12 D9, even if you get financial gain from lots of other factors, you may do that. You may even be a billionaire. You could be really rich. But do you enjoy the money? Does it give you happiness, satisfaction? Not lightly 6, 8, 12. Even some people can be feckless about money. Ill-placed, afflicted Venus D9. So financial gain and enjoyment of the gain are something different. And Venus will always show artistic talent. D9, this is very important. Will artistic talent bring you fortune? Whether it's painting, designing, writing, whether it's acting, anything which is artistic. Venus D9 is very important to see. Now the aspects to Venus, it goes without saying. Venus's sign, house, yes, important, but the aspects can actually have such an important factor that they change everything. So planets in the same sign as Venus D9 can be counted as a conjunction. There are no degrees D9. It is in the same sign or not, and that is a conjunction to Sukra D9. But equally important, site aspects. Graha Dristi to Venus and sign aspects, Rasi Dristi, should be seen as well. Now, just like in all charts, Graha Dristi site aspects of the planet to Venus tend to be innate, but also to manifest more strongly during Mahadasha, whereas Rasi Dristi sign aspects are a permanent factor of the Navamsa. Once again, check the video Aspects in Astrology on my channel to understand more. And certainly check out the example charts I'm going to go through on this video, showing you the aspects in action in the D9. Hopefully that will be helpful as well. But also to understand the meaning of the conjunctions D9 and the aspects, you can certainly check out on my channel, Conjunctions in Astrology. They apply equally to the D9 chart. I will put the link to that as well for you. Now, I can't go through all of those aspects, everybody, here on this video. As I say, playlist conjunctions helps you see all of those aspects as well. But malefic aspects I will talk about. Saturn, Mangala, Rahu, Ketu, those aspects, either conjunctions or any other aspect at all, will influence Venus strongly. Let's have a quick look at those. If Venus connects to Rahu in any way whatsoever in the D9, conjunction is extremely strong, of course, you will have a real greed for love. You are greedy for love, for attention, for sex, yes, I have to say it, and even for just connecting to others. You feel this compulsivity because Rahu is a compulsive factor. It's not a factor of satisfaction, though. One might think of that old Rolling Stone song, Can't Get No Satisfaction. I'm afraid Venus Rahu is that. Because Rahu, don't forget, has no body. He is never satisfied. So depending on the house position, D9, there can be many love affairs, multiple attractions. If that is not the case, you are always in your head about relationships. Rahu is all head, no body. You're overthinking, over-analyzing, processing everything. And obsessions come from Rahu or Ketu, actually, when they connect to Venus. Of course, Rahu is outside the borders, foreign land, very often foreign people attract you, or people from distant areas of your country. Different cultures fascinate you, and big attractions can happen like this. Venus's wife, of course, male chart, very often she can come from different culture, have a different language, something such as that, or there is some different social background which has to be adjusted to. Venus with Ketu is a spiritual factor. Ketu spiritualizes Venus but can give obsessions just like Venus Rahu. Thing is, it can be extremely spiritual though, especially when Saturn is involved. Now, depending who exactly Venus is, of course, D9, there is some change in the romantic feelings during life. Sometimes there is a disgust with sex, a disgust with material relationships, and a yearning for something much more divine. So this can happen. Some charts, there can be disappointments, letting go happening as well, depending on the chart. On the other hand, Venus Ketu can show past karma coming back here. Ketu is a very strong karmic bond from the past. Someone who you have to be with no matter what. And as I say, this can be a little bit obsessive. Ketu is an extremist, so extreme tendencies in relationships. Very important to have a spiritual bond, some religious factor in common with the spouse. This will definitely keep you together when you have Venus Ketu. And Ketu supports having kids, so having children as well is a very important factor sometimes in romantic relationships or in other relationships. Caring for kids is really important. Now, Venus Mongala is a little like Venus Ketu, but it's more challenging because Mongala is not detached. Mongala is all out to fight, and Venus is not about fighting. So this is a stressful combination in the D9 Navamsa. It's a little like Venus Ketu because it's a water factor Venus with a fire Ketu Mongala. They are fire energy. But here it's particularly Gandanta. It's a struggle. It's a really transformative factor. You go through these intense obsessions, difficulties, all or nothing things, just like Venus Ketu. But wow, do you fight? Do you put energy in there? And this can be draining of your energy, of your psychological energy and your physical energy too. So Venus Mars in the D9 can show many sexual attractions which are not satisfying you but are getting you into unhealthy, difficult situations, depending on the sign though and depending on the house. It's difficult because Mongala is the energy, physical energy. So much of your physical, as I say, psychological, psychic energy can be taken up with relationship issues. when you have Venus Mars, and that's not particularly healthy because all the other areas in your life can suffer. Occasionally this can be seen. In fact, Venus Mars is such a stressful aspect, especially when other malefics like Rahu, Ketu get involved. Check the example chart. King Charles II of England, which is on this video coming up in a minute. He has a very afflicted Venus Mars with Rahu. Check it out. I've spoken about what happened to him. Don't forget, this is a nervous energy. Mongala is the nerves. So Venus Mars is a really stressful aspect. You need to calm down, get some meditation, relaxation, and don't get yourself involved with people who stress you out. Venus with Shani. This is the karma, isn't it? Something will be denied. Someone who you would like to be with can't, or when you get together with them, it's not suitable, or you are forced to get together by circumstance or by situations in a relationship which is not working for you. You are not satisfied. Your desire does not get satisfied because Saturn is denial. Venus is desire. So desire is denied. But you see, if it's in a good sign, you're going to be patient. You're going to wait for the right person. You're going to go a long time without a relationship. You'll be celibate a long time. But eventually, you can find long-lasting love with this Venus Sukra. It's not totally negative at all. You have to see the sign. You have to see the house and the lordships involved in this Venus-Saturn combination or Venus-Saturn aspect in the D9 Navamsa. So Venus-Saturn aspects can show delay in marriage, delay in finding the right spouse, but Saturn rewards patience. That's the thing. A few example charts, everybody, bringing into focus all the factors I've just been speaking about. I hope you'll find these interesting. Let's go back in history and start with a chart I haven't done before, but it's fascinating. The charts of Queen Elizabeth I, 1533, absolute ruler of England. She was called Good Queen Bess, but also the Virgin Queen. We'll come back to all the virginity in a minute, but the first thing is, everyone, look at this birth chart. Did you know that the fourth house of a ruler's chart, whether it's queen, king, president, prime minister, tells you what's going to happen to the country when they are in charge? And in this case, Lord of the Fourth has gone to the first house. The Lord is Guru, gone to his Digbala placement first house in his Multicone sign, in his own sign Sagittarius, in his strongest position. Lord of the Fourth, the country. England became a maritime power and defeated Spanish Armada. Sagittarius is a battlefield. Jupiter gives absolute victory. But she didn't marry. She didn't have any children. Look at this 7th house D1. Mongala Saturn. 2 malefics, a clear papakatari blocking this 7th house of marriage. She actually said, though, I would rather be a beggar and single than a queen and married. What was she afraid of in marriage? She was afraid of sharing power because she would have had to do that with her husband. She was absolute monarch until she married. And second thing, she had a morbid fear of childbirth. None of this stopped her having romantic attachments, one in particular. See, everyone, she had a deep attachment and love for Sir Robert Dudley, shown here, who she created Earl of Leicester. Now, he was very close to her. They remained close until old age. Her closest confidant, her closest attachment, Robert Dudley. But he married twice. He could not marry her. There were many political reasons for that. But their connection was absolutely concrete to each other. Thing is, he was especially close to her in her teenage years. That's the thing. Some Hollywood films, particularly recently though, have insisted on portraying Elizabeth's relationship with Robert Dudley as sexual. Here we have Kate Blanchett as Elizabeth. But was that the case or not? Was she the Virgin Queen in name only? The D9 will tell us. Now, Venus in the D1 birth chart is in the sign of Virgo, 10th house. You couldn't make this up, could you? But still, Venus Virgo in itself is not enough. Venus in Virgo birth chart makes her highly critical. Nothing and nobody totally pleases her. That's the other thing. Venus D9, though, is not debilitated anymore. It's in Gemini. What a flirtatious sign, Venus in Gemini. She was known to be flirty. She would flirt with everybody, even her ministers. The thing is that Mithuna, Gemini, is a sign of sexuality, is a sign of sex. So Venus here would suggest maybe she was having some sexual connections, but there's something else to see. But look, the dispositor of Venus, everyone, is Mercury. Just check where it's gone. Into the sign of the Virgin, into Virgo, Mercury, but this time exalted Mercury, Multricone Mercury, first house, super strong. This is her. She is in control of it all. She may flirt, she may laugh, she may joke, but I think she has a definite game plan. Mercury has a plan and she's in control of it. She made a decision she would stay a virgin. I think she stuck to it. There was a question about this. That's the thing. Why? Because the most malefic planet, Rahu, is having an aspect to both Venus and to Buddha. Do you notice? Rahu in the 9th house, foreign shores, ministers, advisors, is continually putting pressure by second aspect onto Venus and onto herself, onto the Lord of her D9, Mercury, first house. So pressure coming onto her to marry, but don't forget Rahu is her lord as well. Rahu Taurus, so strong. Mercury, the other lord, D9, so strong. So she's in control. Continual marriage proposals. What did she do? She never said no. She never let any of them think they didn't have a chance. What a political game, Rahu. She was a political genius, keeping all of these princes of Europe in her favor, thinking they would eventually be the one who would become King of England. They should have listened to what she said in her coronation speech. I want to live and die a virgin. As I say, she had a plan, and I think by this chart, she kept to it. Let's have another royal chart again. Haven't done on my channel. This is interesting because King Charles II, not the current king, was known for his multiple mistresses and huge amount of illegitimate children. He was called the Merry Monarch, and he was certainly merry, having love affairs, flirtations, and sexual intercourse, basically, because the landed gentry of England today, the aristocratic families of England, so many of them are descended directly from King Charles II's illegitimate offspring. Venus D1 is in Aries, Mars sign. He's all over the place. He's always falling in love, falling out of love, that sort of thing. Fire sign. And Venus in the D9 is in another fire sign, Leo, in the 12th house, which has still got a connection to bed pleasures. But look at the malefic affliction to this D9 Venus. Venus is with Rahu. I've just spoken about Venus, Rahu, greedy for love, greedy for sex. And Mangala is afflicting as well. I've chosen this chart, everyone, as a really good example of Venus, Rahu, 12th house, secret love affairs. Nobody knows how many mistresses he had, even before he was married. It never stopped until he died, basically. But the Venus-Mars, this stressful aspect of Venus to Mars, 6th house. His mistresses were stressing him out, not just physically, demanding of him, but psychically. They were very demanding, always wanting more money, draining his energy. One in particular, Barbara Castlemaine, Duchess of Cleveland, was his main mistress, and she was known for her hysteria. She threatened to kill their son if he did not give that son a title. Was she bluffing? No, not at all. She was extremely violent, hysterical, and she could do anything, and she did. She had terrible rages. And this drained him mentally, not just physically, but mentally. And that's the thing with Venus Mongala D9. It's an extremely stressful aspect. So any connection of Mars to Venus in any D9, that person is finding stress in relationships, I promise you. But King Charles II was a very easygoing man, a kind man. You see, Guru aspects, fifth aspect, Venus, Rahu. Guru is wealth. He would maintain the mistresses even when he wasn't having sex with them, give them titles, money, houses. And Guru is the fifth lord in the birth chart. Guru here aspecting this Venus, Rahu, those endless illegitimate children. However, he did banish Barbara Castlemaine, that virago mistress I've just been speaking about, that furious temper tantrum, hysterical woman. And she was a bit crazy. I mean, I must have a look at her chart at some time, but he did banish her from court. And I think that this was a good move because, you know, everybody, Venus Mars is a strain on the nerves. It can actually cause nervous breakdown, worst case scenario, because Mars is the nerves. He married once. Catherine of Braganza would be shown by the seventh house, his wife. Saturn's full-on Dristi. See here, third aspect Saturn. She could not have children, but he didn't divorce her. Why? Because maintenance of that marriage depends on Guru. Here, second house. So he would not divorce her, even though he was advised to do so to get an heir. He was a kind guy, you see. He had many good qualities, I have to say. Let's try our timing technique for Charles II. Here is his wife, Catherine of Braganza. He met her in 1662 when he was in Rahu Mercury Dasha. This works on two levels. First of all, Rahu is the lord of the seventh from Venus, lord of Aquarius, Rahu Dasha. Secondly, Rahu is with Venus. So Rahu Dasha bringing marriage. Let's check out a Venus Rahu again, everybody, quickly. D Vance, Deputy President of the United States of America, currently is also a good example of Venus Rahu in the D9, but very unlike Charles II. See, we have Venus Rahu, everybody, in the D9 together, but in Pisces. What does this mean? Venus is now exalted ideals about love. More than that, it's personal because it's his lord, D9. Venus is the lord of Taurus. So he has got exalted ideals about love, romance. And of course, Pisces is a spiritual sign. Venus exalted. He's a very spiritual, religious person. He's a Roman Catholic. You see, once again, it's a conversion factor. Venus, Rahu, going outside of the borders, doing something different. But Rahu has to be satisfied in relationships. So he married somebody from a different culture, just like Charles II, Venus, Rahu conjunction. His lovely wife, of course, is of Indian heritage. By the way, the 11th house comes in here because that's about the setting of education. Third from the higher education. So there's a lot more to see here, but let's just keep it simple. Let's try the timing technique. D Vance met his wife in maybe Guru Saturn Dasha, because all depends what month it was, but definitely 2010 when they were both at Yale Law School. Jupiter is the lord of Venus in the D9. There we go. There's the technique. Guru Guru Dasha or Guru Saturn Dasha, all the same. Guru is bringing the relationship. Another royal chart, Princess Margaret. Haven't done her chart before. The very gorgeous, stunningly beautiful younger sister of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Now, she is going to be a very good example of Saturn factors. Let's leave the Rahu stuff. Yes, what about Saturn affecting Venus? Very interesting. Now, you may not know about Princess Margaret's history, but it was big in the UK. During the 1950s, when she was in her 20s, she had a big love affair with Group Captain Townsend, who she wanted to marry, but she was not able to because he was divorced. So in the end, after years of speculation, she had a choice. Did she marry him and leave behind the royal family, leave behind her status as a princess, or did she renounce the relationship? She chose to renounce the relationship. That's a thing. Some people thought it was a terrible tragedy, but let's have a check of her chart. Then in the 1960s, she did marry, 1960s, to Anthony Armstrong Jones. Now, this marriage was unusual. He had many love affairs and she had many love affairs. And in the end, they divorced. And she did not marry again, but she continued her association with Roddy Llewellyn, who was a lot younger than her, through the 1970s. So an unusual situation for a princess. Let's check the charts. Let's look at Venus, Princess Margaret. In the D1 chart, very important to note, it's in Virgo again, debilitated but highly critical. Nobody's really satisfying her because Venus in Virgo, nothing is ever right. We've spoken about this. It's hard to satisfy anyone with this critical Venus Virgo, by the way. That's a fact in anybody's chart. Venus in Virgo's never happy, never satisfied. But here's the thing. This seventh house is virtually destroyed. Let me show you. There are the Sun, Ketu. We have Papakartari to this seventh house, just like Elizabeth I, but it gets worse. Saturn has his 10th aspect, Malific aspect from 10th house of status here. Something about her status is destroying the relationship. And Mangala has his 4th aspect here. Has Rahu got an aspect? No. I think it's enough, isn't it? Sun, Ketu, Saturn, Mars, all these malefics are piling up onto this house. Furthermore, Buddha is in a death-like situation. Maranakara Kastana afflicting Venus by his presence. It's not a pretty picture for relationships here. Some deep karmas. Let's check the D9. In the D9, Venus is not debilitated again, but still 10th house. It's about public image again, just like Elizabeth I, because she was a princess, of course. But it's in Cancer, giving her a deep emotional factor, maybe. And it's with the moon. That's enough. That's nice. Venus with the moon would be very pleasant, but the trouble is Saturn is right here, afflicting Venus, afflicting the moon. This is tough. But it makes her tough, her experience of relationships. Venus, Saturn, she's not sentimental, she's down to earth. And Venus is the Lord of the D9. She is practical, she is down to earth. She's concerned about who she is, status. She doesn't want to renounce it. But this moon factor, moon is in own sign, very strong moon, but Saturn is not strong here. Retrograde Shani here is, of course, in Cancer sign, is not in a strong position at all. So Did she get depressed? Did she have mood disorders? I would imagine she had that. She had a lot of addiction. She was addicted to alcohol, actually, stuff like that. She was definitely addicted to smoking. But she was a bit of a tough cookie. Look at this Mongala rising in this Libra sign. She was extremely social. She was a socialite. She adored parties, social life, meeting people. And she could be a bit abrasive, Mongala. She could be a bit harsh in her speech. Mongala aspects Mercury speech. She was not easy to get on with, Princess Margaret. Generally, socially, she was fun. She was life and soul of the party sometimes, but not a relaxing person to be around. That is Mongala rising in the D9. But all in all, of course, Venus is her in relationships with Saturn. Something has to be sacrificed. Saturn is sacrifice, giving up or delay to her marriage here. That's happening. And when she gets married, it doesn't exactly give satisfaction because Moon is the happiness in the relationship. Spoken about all of this, Moon Saturn factor, in my Moon in D9 video. Check it out. Let's get our timing technique in, everybody. She met Group Captain Townsend, who she wanted to marry, had this long connection with about 4 or 5 years, and in the end she had to renounce the relationship in Saturn Moon or possibly Mars Bhukti. Saturn Moon, Saturn Mars Dasha. Is this connected to Venus? Well, you can see it certainly. First thing is that Saturn Dasha is the thing. Saturn is with Venus, one of the things I've said, but also Saturn is the Lord of the 7th house from Venus, bringing relationship. If it was Moon, of course, Moon is with Venus, and don't forget Saturn, Moon are together. It's all connecting there, isn't it? And the reason why we have this not certainty Moon or Mars Bhukti is simply because the exact date she met him for the first time is unknown, but it is generally near to this time, definitely. When she met Anthony Armstrong Jones, who she married, it was in Mercury Moon Dasha. What's going on here? How is Mercury involved? Very easy. Mercury is in the 7th house from Venus, having a full aspect to Venus, triggering off Venus, Lord of her chart and romantic marriage significator for everybody. So Mercury's going to bring relationships, definitely. And the moon is with Venus. There we go. And of course, the moon is the Lord, the dispositor of Venus. So many significators there. So that's when she met her husband. Let's see David Bowie's chart. It's quite interesting. I've done his chart multiple times on my channel, different connections, but never specifically looking at Venus. David Bowie, despite all of his fame and everything, was a very intense and secretive person. Look at this Venus D1 in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio has an edge. It's secretive, it's mysterious, and sometimes cruel. Depending on the malefic aspect to the Venus, this is not an easy person to connect to. And Venus is with all or nothing, Ketu. I think he broke a few hearts, David Bowie, or he was a bit ruthless dealing with love factors. That's the thing. When the D1 house of marriage has Moon Saturn, that's difficult emotion, difficult getting close to people emotionally. I've spoken about this different videos. And a delay Saturn having that deep satisfaction in marriage. What's happening to Venus in the D9? Does it get any better? No, it gets worse. Venus has gone into a debilitated state in the 6th house. So Venus in the D9, debilitated in Virgo, highly critical, dissatisfied, even having addictions, because Venus 6th house can show that. And he certainly had that, drugs and all the rest of it. But it is the Lord, Venus is the Lord here of the first relationship. Gone 12 to itself. Behind there shows divorce, which definitely happened with Angie Bowie. But it was more or less doomed, this first relationship, because look at the second house. Second house to the seventh house here, Scorpio, is the maintenance of this first marriage. I've spoken all about this in my houses D9. Don't get confused. Look at this: Saturn, Ketu, Mars, the Sun, every single malefic. There's no way it's going to sustain this first relationship. When I say first relationship, I mean first marriage, of course. But when we go to the second house, which is 8 away, that is always the second wife. Here we have Rahu in a very strong position, Taurus, and the second house from there has Guru maintaining this relationship. And Venus is now 5 houses away. This is good. This gives a love connection. This is his second wife, the model Iman. So, and of course, Rahu is people from different culture, ethnicity, all the rest of it. Fantastic. So there it is. Good second marriage, very difficult first marriage. Actually, when I say very difficult first marriage, Moon is here. He got publicity, fame, aspecting first house from this relationship. In fact, she said, Angie Bowie, it was a marriage of convenience so that she could have a passport. And indeed, she said it was a showbiz marriage. Definitely with the Moon public here, it was certainly that. Let's check our technique of meeting these significant others. David and Angie Bowie, they met each other when David Bowie was in Mercury, Jupiter, Dasha. Is this going along with our theory? In every way it is, because Venus is in the sign of Mercury. Mercury is the lord of Venus, and Jupiter is the lord of the 7th house from Venus. In both ways, Mercury, Jupiter, he meets significant other. Then he met his second wife when he was in Venus, Jupiter, Dasha in 1990. Don't forget, it isn't just Mahadasha, it's the Bhukti bringing significant other. Jupiter is the lord, as we've seen, of the 7th from Venus. So once again, Jupiter brings significant other. Check Venus in all the houses, starting with Venus in the first house of the D9. This is a very strong position for Venus, easily recognizable generally. So if you need to rectify D9 and you think you have Venus in the first house, you should know by this description. Venus in the first house gives a strong need to connect. You really need to connect to others. Venus looking at the house of marriage. You need society. You need romance. You need connection. You need to feel loved. That's the thing. When Venus is in a good sign for himself, has good aspects to himself, this is good for marriage. You're a kind person, sociable person. You don't like to be alone too much. You love to connect to others. Everybody, friends, family, society. You don't even like to be sitting alone on your own too much, okay? But the thing is, in marriage, it can be very fortunate if there are no malefics, 7th house, or afflicting Venus. It's especially fortunate. Don't forget, D9 first house is Dharma. Venus here, if he is afflicted, can be difficult. When Venus is with malefics or in a difficult sign such as Aries, Scorpio, Mars sign, or he's with Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, I've just spoken about all of those, there can be difficulties in relationships. But the key is, because he is a benefic still, to keep to a high moral code. D9 first house relates to the 9th house generally. That means it's about Dharma. In relationships, you have to keep to Dharma. In mating, in sexual liaisons, you have to do things above board. Then you can make this Venus helpful for you. But as soon as it becomes adharmic, as soon as there are not very above board relationships or deception or multiple relationships or anything which is not dharmic, which is not righteous action, Venus can kick in with some difficulties when malefics afflict. What happens is you don't choose wisely. You get deceived. You get pulled into negative relationship situations. So keep everything above board. Be very honest, forthright. And if it is a malefic Venus having malefic connections, check everybody who you connect to. Get to know people slowly. It doesn't mean everybody's out to deceive you. No, no. But you can be deceived. Why? Because you want to please everybody. Venus first house D9 wants to please people. Number one factor. But it's very good for your presentation. Venus first house, you like to beautify yourself. You know, depending on the sign, you may even have some cosmetic surgery, whatever it is. You will go to any extent to look good and to dress fashionably, mostly with this Venus first house D9. It's a good Venus for public relations, diplomacy, social skills, connecting other people. You are very good at all of this. But of course, Venus is artistic skill and he's in a trine house. First house is a tricone. You can have artistic skill. You can be in some art form, whether it's painting, maybe acting, maybe design, fashion, anything. You can have a very good sense of proportion and form. You can have artistic skill with this Venus first house. And Venus is financial gain. You've always going to find a new source of income, particularly from relationships, connections to others, working in public arena, things such as this. When Venus Sukra's got into the second house, don't forget D9, this has a 10th house overlay. So it's very good for public acclaim. You can be publicly very popular with this Venus second house. Popular in your career, popular in your business, popular in your public profile with Venus second house D9. And just like first house Venus, you want to make yourself look good. You're very into presentation skills, you know, having the right clothes, having the right jewelry, all of these things, particularly facially. You could get cosmetic surgery, all of these things very, very easily actually with this Venus second house D9. Of course, it's the business house. It's very good for family business, family enterprise, business generally. Venus here is excellent. Of course, second house relates to speech, so a very, very attractive speaking voice can be here, almost seductive in your speaking. So good for the influence of other people. If you're in any sort of position where you need to influence people through your presentation skill, Venus here is good. It may not be good for the organization and all the rest of it, but it's absolutely good for how you sound. People can become mesmerized by your voice, and excellent for singers as well. Venus second house D9. And even food, anything connected to food consumption could become favorable, but you could have issues with eating sometimes. Venus second house, you could have eating disorders, obsessions about food that can be seen. And in any relationship, love relationship situation, Venus second house D9, there has to be a good connection with the family of the spouse. Whether you are male or female, it doesn't matter. Venus aspects the 8th house of the in-laws generally and is in the house of family. There has to be pleasing of the family and the in-laws. If there is any discord there, it can be quite difficult. And finally, depending on the whole D9 chart, if there is second marriage, there will not be second marriage simply because you have Venus here, by the way. But if there is second marriage by all the other factors D9, then Venus will become a significator of your second spouse, second long-term relationship. And it shows what brings the first relationship to an end. It's a seductive factor. It's a big desire factor bringing the first relationship to an end. So, well placed by sign, good aspects, that can be helpful. It's a fortunate thing generally. But if there is any malefic aspect, there can be seduction happening, which may not pan out long term. But the main thing is to keep to the absolute honesty above board. Get to know people slowly. Venus can become seduced by appearances. Look behind the mask. That's the key thing when you have Venus second house. Then everything will be good. But talking about extramarital affairs, Venus in the third house is one of the most sexual placements you can have. This is a Kama house, house of desire. The more malefics, such as Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, get together with this Venus. It's going to empower Venus with a huge seductiveness here, a desire for multiple attractions, always attracted to somebody new, or you become focus of other people's attraction. That's the thing. Now, third house D9 has an 11th house impact, strong connection to your friends, a very strong influence through social networks, romantic relationships found very often through social network circles, and siblings are so important. Venus here, a close connection to one sibling, definitely perhaps sister, because Venus represents that, but any sibling, it's very karmic indeed. In some ways, it's good for the second partner because it's the second house from the second house. So the second marriage can be maintained by the honesty, connection, and deep love between you. If it is well-placed Venus. Once again, if we get Mongala connected second, marriage can come to an end or have difficulty with extramarital affair. One thing for sure, this is very, very good for having skill in expression, skill in movement, skill in dress, generally speaking. And very often this Venus takes you into foreign land. You get love affairs with people from far distant shore because Venus aspects ninth house, foreign land. Venus's artistic talent, definitely, but here it's a very restless artistic factor. Very good for dancers, by the way, people who move a lot, because Venus aspects ninth house, which is about the legs, by the way. So movement, travel, foreign land, you love all of this. You get enjoyment when you are moving around rather than just sitting still. That's the thing. Therefore, sometimes we can see long distance relationships or relationships where there is a lot of travel with the partner can be seen also sometimes with Venus third house D9. Venus in the fourth house is very, very strong D9. It's a Kendra Venus, and it's good to have benefic like Venus fourth house in any chart generally. But D9, of course, fourth house has a difficult overlay. Check my video about houses D9. It's a Kara house. So you have to watch health in connection to Venus factors. You have to watch for overindulgence. You have to watch for a little tinge of laziness. Sometimes this can be negative, and health can be impacted in any Venus Bhukti Dasha. That's the thing. But it can be positive too because Venus is a benefic, getting you through health crisis. That's the thing. Now, in the D9, this fourth house has a 12th house overlay. This means there can be foreign settlement because of relationships, or you can travel and meet potential relationship partners. That's it. And the home which you build with your partner is the essential glue to keep you together. Domestic happiness is essential to you. And I might say, well, that's essential to everybody. No, some people like to be outside the home a lot, and being in the home isn't the big thing. But for you, if there is not harmony, peace, quiet, even nice home, decorated, looking good, you feel in a very agitated state. So you are always thinking, how can I make my home more beautiful, more romantic, more relaxing? When you do this, it's fortunate. So pay attention to the look of your home when you have Venus, fourth house, to attract partners even. It's that basic. So having a happy home, peaceful home, but gorgeous looking home is so important. And you can have multiple properties, landed interest, success financially actually with this Venus here. But any malefic affliction and there is a dissatisfaction, always not so happy with the home. It's never just right. The other thing is Venus's focus is on the 10th house. So public image is very important to you as well. But it isn't just about being happy at home, sitting at home, you see. As I say, Venus is concerned about public image status. And very often I've seen Venus here, you can rise in status through marriage, or you seek to do that. Sometimes parent, particularly mother, pushes you almost to this. That's occasionally seen. In summary, there can be rise in status through marriage, or parent pushes you into this, whether you want it or not sometimes, but you desire to better yourself. That's a thing. And definitely property is favorable, as I say, and even career can be benefited through marriage, or you can meet spouse in the public work space as well. When Shukra Venus gone into the 5th house in the D9, it's very much like the 1st house. It's a very auspicious position for many things in connection to relationships. You see, 5th house has a 1st house overlay. Check the video, houses in D9, to understand that houses are not the same D9 chart. So this is very much about you. You are charismatic, you are charming, you attract people to you, and you definitely have artistic talent in some form. And because 5th house is about creative self-expression, it's very good for acting, for imitation, for any sort of skills regarding self-presentation, but actually any artistic form, musical, dancing, anything where you are presenting yourself and being unique in the art form. This is the key. Your uniqueness will be valued. The 5th house is definitely about a uniqueness about the self. So Venus is here showing that you present yourself in a unique and very attractive way, very charismatic way. You can have good looks as well, but even if you maybe not considered to be conventionally good looking, you will still attract attention. There is something very charismatic and attractive about people who have Venus 5th house. So naturally, this will increase your possibilities of attracting romantic partners. Venus 5th house, just like Venus 1st house, you like romance. You like falling in love, and you can fall in love quickly. You are very much interested in connecting to others and really very idealistic about love relationships. And a special skill here is connecting to younger people, particularly children. Having children, connecting to your own children should be very fortunate for you with this Venus D9 5th. And the full drishti, though, desire of Venus goes towards the 11th house, which is about gain. So definitely Venus here being a financial indicator shows that you can earn a lot of money through skill, through connections, through your social network circles, you can have very good financial opportunities. Is there anything negative about this Venus fifth house? Yes. If it gets very afflicted, you can be very flirtatious. You can have many romances, maybe too many. You can feel as though you just can't settle down, that you don't want to commit. You perhaps like the fun of being attractive to others and attracting others rather than just having one stable relationship when it is afflicted. But if it is not afflicted, you can bring love, romance, fun to your relationship as well. And it's very good for having friends in common with your spouse. This is a favorable factor. When Venus is in the 6th house of the D9, it's in a Dustana house like 8th house, 12th, but more than that. This is challenging because Venus is in a Moronakataka position. Venus is not feeling happy in this house. This has same effect D1, D9, and I would definitely advise that you check the video on my channel in my Astrology Secrets playlist, Moronakataka planets. That may help you understand more about Sukra here, equally applicable to the D9. But a full assessment of the sign and the aspects to Venus are very important. But here's the thing. You have trouble finding happiness in relationships in terms of connecting deeply because Venus here becomes very critical indeed. And Venus becomes competitive. There is some karmic factor from past life taking you into competition for relationships, making every connection a sort of battlefield, and this can be difficult. In fact, very often I've seen Venus 6th house can give love triangles. Not always, but sometimes, where there is you, the object of your desire, and somebody else. This can be seen sometimes. Now that's one thing, but when you are in a relationship, Moronakataka Venus, you've got to avoid the over criticism of the spouse, or spouse can begin to feel like an enemy, like a rival, like a competitor, and you don't want this to happen. This is not healthy at all. So teamwork with the spouse is very important. Otherwise, there can be petty quarrels, differences, which are not helpful. But let's be clear, this does not mean you are not going to have a good relationship. Absolutely not. You may go through some difficult karmas, but with time, you will work through these and understand yourself better. What you have to do is let people be who they are and don't try to manipulate everything. Don't analyze relationships so much. Let them flow. You will feel happier. Of course, Venus here can show separation, divorce, but not in himself. There has to be some link to the 7th house of marriage as well. In some connection, it has to be there. What needs to be done here, though, to avoid all of this discord, separation, problems, quarrels, criticism, competitive factor, what you need to do is time alone. You need space to yourself. Venus's full desire is just to get away from everything, going to the 12th house. Venus needs a little bit of solitude. That's the thing. With that space to yourself, you can be much more constructive, happier in the actual relationship. Definitely meeting spouse, maybe in some spiritual retreat or in foreign land, foreign travel is very possible as well. Definitely, though, travel is a good thing for you, helps to relax you. Going into a completely different culture can be helpful sometimes. And actually, deep down, 6th house Venus shows past life situations coming in, which are causing some sort of psychological issues around fear of closeness, fear of being controlled, fear of being possessed, male or female. This can be an issue. So there has to be trust with the spouse. Otherwise, an over possessive spouse, controlling spouse, can be quite difficult here. And watch your health with this Venus as well, because Venus here is in a house which relates to food intake, digestion, all of these things. And Venus is about food. So there can be extreme food fads, there can be extreme diets happening, there can be food obsession or starvation or something where you are doing extreme diets. You have to avoid this, or it can have negative impact on your health. It's simply about stress. Stress is the number one danger to your health when you have Venus sixth house. Getting away from it, meditation, peace and quiet, as I say, is your greatest friend. When Venus has gone to the seventh house, indicating first spouse, there is something very attractive, very important about first spouse or first deep committed relationship. Venus here can attract you to, or attract to you, very high ideals in relationships, e.g., a little bit romanticized, a little bit idealistic. So you can not always see spouse, particularly first spouse, as they are. They can be very good looking, they can come from a very good social background, but are you seeing them as a person or seeing them as some ideal? That's the thing. But Venus looks at first house. So spouse is helping you. Spouse is giving you something unique. First spouse pushing you into the limelight. And this can be financial help or business help or something. Spouse is more than a spouse to you. That's the thing. When you have Venus in the seventh house of the D9. Now, Venus is looking at the first house. As I say, spouse can be very attractive, but they can make you more attractive. How can I put it? When you are with the spouse, going out and about, you get noticed. They, being with you, put you up a notch in society. You're a very good couple together, very noticed couple sometimes with this Venus, because Venus is about society and Venus is about luxury in life. So, well aspected Venus, marriage can increase luxury of your lifestyle many times. Of course, if there are malefics involved, like Mongala here, that's very difficult because there might be some sort of luxurious lifestyle, but conflict about money, conflict about sexuality, all sorts of stuff could go on. You see, thing is here, Venus here does not stop conflict between you, and any conflict here can affect you both. You both become disturbed by it. Strong by sign, good aspects, very good for business, even doing business with the spouse. The main thing about Venus, though, being in this seventh house is that you benefit from relationships materially, financially, and socially. Being in a bonded relationship, marriage, long-term partnership can be fortunate for you. That's the thing. But here's the thing, you want to please the spouse. You are focused on doing what the spouse wants you to do. Or you feel a little bit cornered by the spouse's power over you. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's good to cooperate. But is it cooperation or coercion? You see, Venus gives the spouse a lot of power over you. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it has to be a two-way street. So, very important to talk about everything with the spouse. Keep everything above board. Why? Because the seventh house in the D9 relates to the third house, which is a house of sex. So although fortunate for marriage, where there is affliction here, there can be many love affairs. There can be extramarital relationships even, just like Venus 3rd house, Venus 11th house sometimes. You've got to be careful that everything is above board. Then this Venus is definitely fortunate. Final thing about Venus here is that this has a 3rd house overlay. 3rd house is siblings. So sometimes spouses' siblings bring you together, or your siblings connect you to your destined partner. That can happen occasionally. Of course, the whole chart has to be seen. Venus in the 8th house can be very positive, but can have a little bit of difficult consequence as well. Let's get the really positive stuff. Wealth. Venus is good here for investment, stock market, all of these things, making wealth grow for you in a very positive way, especially when he is not too afflicted, obviously, but even if he is, he's still good here for financial gain. In particular, Venus here shows family inheritance, gain of property sometimes, or gain financially through the spouse or the partner. And you see, 8th house is about connection with the spouse, first spouse, what sustains the relationship. So it's good for the sustenance of this first relationship, actually. But for Venus to sustain the first relationship, he should not be with any malefic, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Saturn, definitely, or even aspected. In a good sign, well aspected, he's helpful. Now, Venus here will pick up on the scorpionic factors about the 8th house and Mangala Ketu factors. So intense sexuality, intense sexual feelings can be here. Sometimes there can be obsessional tendencies in relationships, attachments, even secret attachments very often. The difficulties certainly come when there is any malefic conjunction. Mangala, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, even the Sun, but especially Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu get involved, or they aspect Venus. Then there is this tendency to get involved in difficult relationship situations. You could be in a relationship that you can't get out of. You could be in a relationship where you are obsessed, but it's all one way. You could be in a relationship which you know is not good for you, but you are so strongly attached that you cannot let go. You may have many secret obsessions, as I say, even be attracted to people who are not good for you. That's more likely to happen when Mars is here as well, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu. Compulsively attracted to people who you know really are not there for the long haul. People who you know are perhaps not ideal, especially in a female chart, I would say. With this Venus with a malefic like Mars, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, get to know people slowly. When you do that, you'll be fine. Final point, Venus here, really, no matter what his condition, can give you help, support from your in-laws, okay? So your partner's family help you. That can be seen very often. Now also, the 8th house has a 4th house overlay. Check the video. Houses in D9, it's not the same as D1 birth chart. Therefore, Venus is very auspicious here for the home life in a relationship. You get extra property space or some increase in your domestic situation through relationships. This can be seen. And it's definitely seen if Guru Jupiter should have any influence on this Venus. Property increase through marriage, more space, inheritance, all of that. Jupiter in any way having an influence on this Venus, that's definitely going to happen. Shukra has gone to the 9th house of the D9. This is a lucky position in a way. You will eventually get some special break, some extremely good luck with romance, love, and relationship. But if there is malefic affliction, of course, if Saturn is involved, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, there will be some definite delay with this. One thing is always generally seen: the romantic partner who you connect to, who perhaps gives you this good luck and fortune, can be met when you are traveling, when you are in an academic circle, studying, or in foreign land. Depending on your Mahadasha, lots of things. Check what I've said about timing at the beginning of the video. It's a very fortunate meeting, a destined meeting from past life. Partner can be a continuation of past life romantic connection that was not completed or had to be ended. So there's an immediate recognition with this special person. But of course, Venus's full drishti is on the third house, the Kama house of sexuality. So Venus here, if he is afflicted, can give you a roving eye, love affairs, constant flirtations. But this is not going to stop you meeting that special someone. At some point, you have to watch out for it. And Venus here makes you a very talented person, particularly in your communication, perhaps musically. Talent again comes 1, 5, 9 in the D9. But this artistic talent is definitely going to need tuition. You need to be brought up to standard. Either teach yourself, get a very special instructor, whether it's musical, literary skill, artistic skill. The skill cannot manifest without instruction, without some help. Just like Venus' third house, it's a wandering factor here. And if there is affliction to Venus, there can be a dissatisfaction with life. What helps you is to get a deep inner meaning to life. Getting a guru guide, somebody who will give you a deep feeling of purpose in life. Venus is a guru, but not a guru of spirituality. That's the thing. So an afflicted Venus here, there can be difficulty connecting to spirituality, academic factors. You could leave university, college, maybe because you get bored, or you maybe have a romantic interlude or something. Pleasures in your life can interfere sometimes with your education process. And if there is affliction, there can be difficulty with the father, with your mentors, definitely with a boss or superior at some time, because Venus can give a very deceptive factor here. But if he is well placed, at some point, some mentors, boss, superior will help you rise in life. Make no mistake. Now, 10th house D9 is a money house, is a wealth house. Having a benefic here is super successful for wealth, for financial gain and prosperity. It will surely come to you at some point. Even if there is malefic affliction, Venus gives you financial gain when he's in 10th house D9. And generally speaking, it is Venus Dasha or Venus Subdasha, Bhukti periods of Venus, where this wealth can become available. Now, Venus here is in the house of status, society, where you see yourself in the social realm, high class, low class, career status, all of that. And something to do with your personal status or your spouse or partner, potential partner's status will become very important in love relationship. Now, this can have many outcomes. Either you desire to rise in status or you do through marriage. Second thing is partner desires to marry you because they rise in status. That could happen as well. A lot of people who are royals, actually, such as queens and kings and princesses, have this Venus 10th house D9, For instance, Marie Antoinette of France. I've actually looked at her chart earlier on in this series. Such as Queen Elizabeth I of England, Princess Margaret of England on this video. Check it out earlier on. Have this Venus 10th house. Why? Because their relationship situation goes into the public domain. However, in an ordinary person's chart, if you like, what does this mean? As I've said, there is still something about culture, status in society, who you are, who is the spouse, what they do for a living. That will be very important indeed in relationship situation. One favorable thing here, Venus's full drishti is on the fourth house, where he is a significator for. This helps health. Even when you have difficult health issues, Venus aspect to this fourth house can be helpful. And it's good for property, landed interest, which may increase through marriage many times. At Venus's drishti, you see, full desire here is on the fourth house of home. Privacy, quietude, happy home life. This becomes really important for this Venus person. It can be quite favorable actually for your private life, home life, property together, quietude, because this is something which is so important to you. So family, children, privacy, all of these become a very special, important factor actually for this Venus 10th house. Venus gone into the 11th house is a very karmic situation in the D9, because in D9 it has a relationship to the 7th house. It's a sort of overlay. Check the video, houses in the D9, link below to understand more. 11th house connects you and your spouse though to society. So these karmas come from past life aims, goals. There is some goal in common, some aim in common between you and your spouse or partner. This could be many things. It could be political factors. It could be religious factors. It could be social, humanitarian work, anything. But something that is not just about love, romance, is taking up time with the spouse, keeps you together, is a glue between you, this common aim. And you can meet in an education setting, third from the 9th house, in a political, religious, or social group, because it's friendship networks which are bringing you together. It doesn't mean it's going to be an easy relationship though, because Aquarius is the natural 11th house. It's a Saturn Rahu factors. You are working out past differences between you, coming together in this way. That's actually what's behind it all. And Venus has a very strong aspect onto the 5th house of children as well. So having kids connects you strongly to your spouse or partner. Very good factor here though, because Venus aspects 5th house and he's in the 11th house. There is a deep wisdom in this relationship. You can help each other understand life and process of your karmas. You can be best friends together. Now that's not an easy thing to achieve in a relationship, and that could happen here. There can also be financial gain with a spouse together. You see, it's a team process, you and the spouse working as a team. Then there can be prosperity gain, even rise in social status together. That could happen. And having friends in common, sort of social networks together, which you can both go to. So it isn't about their friends, your friends, but sharing friends can be a helpful factor as well. 12th house Venus D9 is a deep karmic placement. You're a very intense, somewhat secretive person, but passionate person in your romantic encounters. Sometimes spouse can actually come from foreign lands, because 12th house is about that. Or spouse can come from a different culture within your country. They've got a whole different outlook on life, and you have to accommodate this. Or very often you can meet spouse partner when you are traveling or in foreign shores or in a spiritual context, setting as well. Spiritual, religious group, etc. That could happen. But Venus being in this 12th house has an 8th house overlay in the D9. There's some karmic factors from past life, some unfinished conflicts that are coming up for resolution in your intimate partnership. So this can be a little bit tricky to incorporate. Why? Because Venus here is a little bit secretive about love, romance, strong desires, but secretive desires as well. Strange thing about Venus 12th house is it's the opposite of Venus in the 6th house. Venus in the 6th house, highly critical, on the case of the spouse, always dissatisfied. You're not like that. You're easygoing, just want some peace and quiet. But the spouse can be combative, argumentative, critical, and this can be heavy going. That's not a definite, because sometimes Venus in a good sign for himself or with Guru Jupiter aspects, it can be mitigated. But still, there's a little bit of conflict coming in, a little bit of feeling like, wow, it's more stress than I can be bothered with in this relationship situation. Sometimes, people with this Venus 12th house are more interested in their spirituality than in relationships. Relationships suck a lot of energy out of them, psychically, physically, mentally. It isn't smooth because Venus aspects 6th house of conflict. See, it's a very idealistic Venus here. This Venus wants to do something for humanity, wants to give something back. Very good for humanitarian work, serving humanity. Very, very good for helping animals. A deep love of non-human beings here. So there is some sacrifice of energy, and it's really about, do you sacrifice into relationship or do you sacrifice to the greater good of mankind? It's all got to be seen by the whole chart in this Destiny D9. But it doesn't always mean that relationships have to be sacrificed, negative, stressful. They can be that, but you have to find a way to get space to yourself. The more you can get involved in bigger things than just the relationship, the less stress comes onto the spousal relationship. That's the secret of it. Very often you and your spouse do share some deep spiritual understanding, philosophical, religious, humanitarian understanding, anything which is positive. But even if you don't, by many malefic aspects, you must follow this for yourself. That's the thing. But to help in any relationship situation, give yourself a break. Always have space to yourself in a home. Always have a meditation room or study room or some space which is you alone, so that you can refresh yourself psychically and spiritually. Because Venus here, you are a very compassionate, giving person. You've so much to give, and that's the key to remember. Check the other D9 videos up on your screen right now. New to my channel, of course. Don't forget to sub below. Goodbye for now, and God bless you all.